new class for something in Diablo, we ask ourselves a few questions. What is the core strong fantasy? How do you as a player feel awesome playing in class? What is the connection to the world of Sanctuary? Why does this person take on the forces of darkness? And what is the cool tactical combat role that these characters have? So to tackle the first two questions, why the Crusader and what is his backstory? His backstory is that hundreds of years ago, the Paladins, last seen in Diablo 2, pushed west on their grand crusade, bringing the Zakroon faith with fire and sword. This act ultimately culminated in the founding of the city of Westmarch. Meanwhile, as they pushed west, a small special forces unit of the Paladins called the Crusaders pushed east on a secret mission. Now the Crusader is back here at the end of all things to stop the forces of darkness yet again. So the Crusader, the tactical role that they have was really inspired by the fantasy. So we want a mid-range melee character, but why did we want that? We're thinking, what happens if you mix the Paladin, that knight in shining armor, with the Spartan war ethos, mixed with a modern armored tank? When we get something that is so heavily armored, it is literally an immovable object, and it uses its armor as part of its weaponry. So that's where the shields come in. The Crusaders have Crusader shields. These shields are a core part of their weapons, and we'll show you a few skills in just a moment here. And they have the flails, the big heavy thing. So the Crusader, with his huge armor, wants to be in the middle of a group of enemies, and with his Holy Wrath abilities, he has mid-range spells that he can cast around the battlefield to control the whole thing, and keep the enemies running towards him, destroying ranged enemies in the distance. So we call that a war machine made human, a tank in human form. Let's get right to it. Shield Bash. Crusader shields. These, their armor percentage is calculated into the damage Crusader does. This is just one of the many skills that use the shield as a weapon. Fist of the Heavens, one of just a couple of spells from Diablo 2 from the Paladins that are returning here. This is that mid-range melee ability. So while he's fighting in the middle of a group of enemies where he wants to be, he can strike at a distance as well. We thought we'd take that fantasy one step further, and that's where Falling Sword comes in. So if a tank has a shell or an artillery strike at a distance, what if the Crusader, being a medieval warrior, literally was the missile? He becomes the missile with Holy Wrath, and that's where Falling Sword comes from. So enough talk for a moment. We actually have a playable demo for everybody, a fully playable demo on the show floor, and we're going to give you a sneak peek of that right now, just a little section of it. Can we please switch to the demo? Okay, so for this particular build of the Crusader, we have 6 abilities. I'm going to layer them all in, and then we'll unleash hell on the enemies towards the end.
So we start on the outskirts of Westmarch. The Crusader has heard about the massacre happening in the city. And so he doesn't know all of the details of what's going on or why, but he immediately makes his way there to try to put an end to the killing. And right off the bat, you run into Borak. He's the young Haradrim that Tyrael sent to find you during the cinematic. So he's got a quick message for you before you send him off to get Tyrael and bring him back to the city.
And even here, as you're actually looking down, you see Westmarch in the distance. And looking there, you can actually tell that something obviously is not quite right. And maybe we should go down there and explore a little bit further.
So the first 2 abilities I've been showing off are Fist of the Heavens, this one, and Punish, which is one of his primary attacks with his flail. As we move into the city, we're going to use Shield Glare. Holy energy comes down from the heavens, reflects off your shield, and blinds your enemies.
So obviously bad things are happening in the city here. So you start to run into people fleeing. And you're going to see here how Malthael is able to actually turn the people of Westmarch into his reapers, his death constructs, and turn them against their friends.
And let's show off another ability. Here's Consecration. We'll let them surround me first. Well, while me or my enemies stand within the circle, or when my allies stand within the circle, we're healed. In addition, this has a rune where enemies take holy fire damage.
So Kevin, it looks like Malthael has sealed the gate, and you're going to have to find another way into the city. And as you do, you'll notice that anytime you come across these corpses, they'll rise to fight you, because anything that's dead is a tool of Malthael.
Now, as we see Kevin here sort of trying to find a different entry into Westmarch, you'll see a great example of the seamless switching between interior spaces and exterior spaces. So as he's here finding the actual entryway, going inside, and this is the waterway. And as you can see, the lighting changes, and we're now in an interior space.
And it's really important with those transitions, really helps sell a sense of place. Makes Westmarch feel like a real city in Sanctuary, and again, it really shows off the great Gothic feel in the architecture of Westmarch.
So you're about to find a small group of refugees huddling here. They're actually out of danger. They're safe inside the walls. So if you're searching for refugees, you're going to need to keep moving. And so you can run right past them. We're trying to keep a lot of the storytelling as ambient as possible. And now we're about to meet one of Malthel's signature lieutenants, the Death Maiden. She does this horrible thing to these people and then gets away. So you don't get to fight her yet, but hopefully you'll track her down later.
We're going to activate the Law of Valor. It's a passive ability, much like the mantras, where I gain extra damage as I do critical hits, but it also has an activation bonus of extra damage for everybody. So the only ability we haven't seen yet is Falling Sword. Let's do that now. Artillery strike.
Now, as Kevin's making his way up here, you can see that there's a wide variety of environments in Westmarch. We were trying to really sort of make it interesting for players for moving for tight spaces where you have to use different strategies and tactics to wide open spaces where you actually fight your way through Westmarch.
Here's a good example of tactics. I'm at melee enemies here. There's two archers at the side. Let's take them out.
Well, nice work.
Item.
Hold on, the game is about loot.
Oh, no, great.
Awesome.
So now the Crusader is making his way into the cathedral. And this is where he's heard a rumor that there's a bunch of refugees hiding, and they're not safe here. So the Crusader's got to get into the cathedral and try to stabilize the situation before he can worry about anything else. Just save as many civilians as possible.
And one of the things I really love about the Crusader is how the tactical combinations of all the skills to really give a really great feeling as for the player. You can come up with some great 1, 2, 3 combos.
And you saw that a bunch of those Reapers were running towards the cathedral, and that's because they can sense life. When they sense the living nearby, they're going to make right for it and try to end it. So now Tyrael shows up. Lorath ran and got him. He's here. He's injured, but he's ready to team up with you. And now that you two have joined forces, you're going to be able to go into that cathedral and find out what's going on, because it might not be pretty.
Well, that looks friendly.
Looks great.
Yeah, no trouble ahead.
So some bad stuff happened here. But at last, you get to confront that Death Maiden. So now it's a chance to fight her. And it looks like she was creating some kind of a spell, that black orb. And we don't know what that is yet, but we may find out at another time.
So let's talk a little bit more about tactics. The Death Maiden teleports around a lot, so I have sort of 3 different ways of stopping her. I can strike at a distance, I can blind her, and I can use Falling Sword for that distance strike when she runs away.
Nice work.
Goodies.
So we found 2 special Crusader weapons. The Crusader Shield, which again, the armor percentage is part of the Crusader's damage. This is a massive upgrade here. And we found a legendary item. So targeted legendaries are a new system we have. Because I'm playing the Crusader and it's the first time I've killed this boss, I get a guaranteed legendary. This particular one is God Butcher. It's perfect for the Crusader because it has a chance to pull its enemies in and slow them, and so you're right in the middle of the action always where you want to be. When you guys play this demo, in just a little while, you're going to be able to try this weapon out yourself.
All right, thanks guys.
All right.
You, Kevin. All right. All right, now you just got a good sense of